What are the pet quarantine rules for expats in Asia? Imagine arriving in a new country with your furry friend only to find out they need to stay in quarantine for weeks. That's why knowing the rules before you go is so important. When planning your move abroad, understanding pet quarantine procedures can save you time, money, and stress. Each Asian country has its own set of rules to prevent the spread of rabies and other diseases. Most countries requiring your pet to have a microchip, which is an identification implant, and proof of rabies vaccination. Some countries also ask for a rabies antibody titer test, which shows your pet has enough immunity. You'll need a health certificate issued by a veterinarian within a specific time frame before travel, often within 10 days. In Malaysia, pets from the United States must stay in quarantine for at least 7 days. Sometimes this period can be extended if there are issues with paperwork or health. You'll need to get an import permit and show proof of vaccination and health status. Singapore requires a 30-day quarantine unless your pet has a rabies antibody titer test showing sufficient immunity and all paperwork is correct. If you do not travel with your pet within 5 days of arrival, or if your pet has been owned for less than 6 months, a 10-day home quarantine may be needed. Japan has one of the longest quarantine periods, requiring pets from the United States to stay for 180 days. This involves strict timelines for vaccinations, rabies testing, and paperwork. Hong Kong mandates a 4-month quarantine, and you must provide a valid veterinary health certificate along with other documents. China requires a 30-day quarantine unless all requirements are met, including a rabies antibody titer test and proper paperwork. Only 1 pet per person is allowed in China. Indonesia, including Bali, has a quarantine period of 14 days at Jakarta's entry point. Bali has strict rules due to rabies concerns, and your pet must be vaccinated against rabies and have a titer test. The quarantine can be extended if paperwork or health checks are not in order. Taiwan generally requires a minimum of 7 days in quarantine unless your pet meets specific exemption criteria, such as having a rabies antibody titer test and coming from a rabies-controlled country. When planning your move, start preparing your pet's paperwork early. Vaccinations, tests, and permits can take months to complete. Always check the latest rules for your destination country because regulations can change. Using a professional pet relocation service can help manage the process smoothly. Remember to book quarantine facilities in advance if needed, as space can be limited. Also, understand the rules for both entry and exit to avoid surprises. Following these procedures will help your pet settle into their new home in Asia with less stress and more joy.